for centuries. Historians have been trying to solve the riddles buried within the Persian Empire, mysteries of vanished kings, hidden treasuries, and events that shaped human history. But today, we're going to confront these questions head-on and uncover which mysteries have been solved, and which still defy every expert on Earth. Welcome back, explorers of ancient history. The Persian Empire wasn't just one of the largest civilizations the world has ever seen. It was also one of the most mysterious. Behind its grand palaces, its immortal armies, and its legendary rulers lies a maze of secrets that archaeologists are still trying to untangle. Today, we dive deep into the Persian Empire's greatest mysteries, some uncovered by modern science, and others still locked away in the sands of time. The Persian Empire ruled for centuries, leaving behind towering monuments, revolutionary ideas, and astonishing wealth. But its mysteries, its unsolved deaths, missing treasures, and political secrets still echo across the ruins of Persepolis and Pasargadae. Some questions we can answer with certainty. Others remain forever locked in time, and perhaps that's what makes the Persian Empire one of the most fascinating civilizations in human history. Before the Persian Empire stretched from the Indus Valley to the shores of the Aegean, before it became the world's first great super-empire, it was nothing more than a collection of scattered tribes living in the harsh lands of ancient Iran. And this is where our first mystery begins. How did these tribes, divided by geography, language, and local loyalties, suddenly transform into a civilization powerful enough to challenge and conquer the greatest kingdoms of their time? The rise of the Achaemenids is not a simple success story. It feels almost unnatural, as though a piece of the historical record is missing or perhaps intentionally hidden. When we look at the early accounts of Persian history, we don't find neat timelines or clear political developments. Instead, there are gaps, strange gaps, patches of silence where we should find documented alliances, battles, or political negotiations. What we do have is a single towering figure stepping out of the shadows, Cyrus the Great, but even he appears almost too perfect. A leader who emerges from obscurity, unites warring tribes, defeats a dominant empire like Media, and then marches undefeated into Lydia and Babylon. How is it that every major rival of the ancient world fell so quickly, almost effortlessly, to a man whose origins remain strangely unclear? Ancient Greek writers who admired and feared Persia in equal measure describe Cyrus as a man destined for greatness, favored by fortune, guided by brilliant strategy. But we must remember, these writers had never met him. Their knowledge came from stories already mixed with legend and political exaggeration. Persian inscriptions praise him as a liberator chosen by the gods, a king whose rule brought peace to every land he touched. Yet inscriptions are royal propaganda. They tell us what kings want remembered, not what actually happened. Archaeologists, meanwhile, have been searching for evidence of Cyrus's early life, but the trail remains faint. There are no childhood records, no detailed mentions of his youth, no solid evidence explaining how he gained such influence so quickly among the Persian clans. The mystery grows deeper when we consider the fall of Media. According to many sources, Cyrus led a revolt that toppled King Astyages. But other accounts suggest something more complex, a political coup, carefully coordinated from within the Median court. Some historians even believe Cyrus had supporters inside Media long before he lifted a sword. If this is true, the rise of Persia wasn't simply a military achievement. It was a silent takeover, orchestrated from the shadows. And then there's the strange case of Babylon. The Neo-Babylonian Empire was wealthy, fortified, and powerful. Yet Cyrus captured it without a major battle. How? The famous story says he diverted the Euphrates River, allowing his soldiers to slip into the city through its waterways. But Babylon was one of the world's most heavily defended cities. Diverting a river is not something done overnight, and the Babylonians were not fools watching their water disappear without suspicion. Another version of the story suggests the gates were opened from inside that powerful nobles, dissatisfied with their king Nabonidus, sided with Cyrus. If that is true, then Cyrus was not just a conqueror. He was a master strategist who understood how to break an empire from the inside before marching through its doors. As Persia expanded, its rise continued to defy ordinary explanation. Within a single generation, the Achaemenid Empire controlled more territory than any kingdom before it. Most empires take centuries to form. Persia did it in decades. How did they build administrative networks so fast? How did they secure loyalty from regions as distant as Egypt, Anatolia, and Bactria? How did a people with no prior imperial system suddenly create one of the most advanced bureaucracies the world had ever seen? Some scholars argue that the Persians adopted models from the civilizations they conquered: Babylonian administration, Median military structure, Elamite traditions, even elements of Assyrian road systems, but adopting is not the same as mastering. The Persians didn't simply copy these systems, they improved them. They unified distant cultures under a single administration. They created the Royal Road, a communication system so advanced that messages could travel across the empire in days instead of months. They allowed conquered people to keep their religion, their customs, and their identity, a political move far ahead of its time, one that reduced rebellion and stabilized vast territories. Yet, even with these explanations, something still feels unexplained. The speed, the scale, the precision, it all suggests a deeper story behind Persia's rise. Something not fully recorded or perhaps deliberately erased. The Achaemenids did not rise like a normal empire. They rose like a phenomenon, sudden and overwhelming, leaving historians to wonder what forces, alliances, or hidden events propelled them from obscurity to global dominance with such astonishing momentum. Cyrus the Great is remembered as one of history's most extraordinary rulers, a conqueror who reshaped the ancient world, a lawgiver who inspired future empires, and a leader whose reputation has survived more than 2,500 years. Yet for a man whose achievements were so monumental, the story of his final days is wrapped in shadows. His death is one of the great puzzles of ancient history, a mystery where every source contradicts the next and where archaeology offers clues that only deepen the enigma. And it all begins with a simple but unnerving question. How does a king of such power simply disappear from the record? The last confirmed point in Cyrus's life places him on the far edges of the Persian Empire, campaigning against the nomadic tribes beyond the northeastern borders. But once he enters that hostile landscape, the historical narrative fractures. Greek historians, the primary storytellers of his era, provide a dramatic version. According to Herodotus, Cyrus fought against Queen Tamiris of the Massagetæ, a powerful tribal leader known for her ruthlessness and military skill. In this version of events, Cyrus attempted to trap her forces using clever tactics, but the plan backfired. The Persians suffered a crushing defeat. Cyrus was killed, and Tamiris, in a final gesture of revenge, supposedly dipped his severed head into a bowl of blood. It is a story told with cinematic flair, but one so sensational that historians remain cautious about accepting it. Other sources tell a completely different story. Ctesias, a Greek physician who served at the Persian court, claims Cyrus didn't die in a glorious battle at all. According to him, Cyrus was injured in a minor skirmish, taken back to his capital, and died from his wounds days later. This account, far less dramatic, raises questions. If Cyrus died within Persian territory, surrounded by his own people, why is there so little detail from the empire itself? Why do Persian inscriptions, which glorify every victory and grand achievement, remain suspiciously silent about the circumstances of his death? It is incredibly unusual for the passing of a king of his stature to be treated with such vagueness. Then comes the archaeological mystery. Cyrus's tomb at Pasargadae still stands today, an elegant, towering structure built with precision far beyond its time. But when archaeologists examined the tomb in the modern era, they found something deeply unsettling. The interior was empty, no royal remains, no funeral artifacts, no treasures. Only a defaced stone sarcophagus stripped of the body it once held. Some suggest Alexander the Great, upon conquering Persia, may have discovered the tomb already looted. Ancient writers record Alexander's visit to the site. They describe him entering the tomb and ordering it to be restored after finding it disturbed. But they never explicitly mention whether Cyrus's body was inside. That part is left unspoken, as though even the ancient witnesses were unsure. If grave robbers stole the body, why leave the golden coffin? Why leave the inscription praising Cyrus? Why take the remains but not the treasures? The choices don't match typical ancient tomb robbery patterns. Others speculate that Persian priests might have removed the king's body during times of political chaos, relocating it to a secret location to prevent desecration by enemies. But if that were true, why is there no record, no tradition, no hint passed down through generations about a hidden second tomb? A stranger possibility emerges when examining the political context of Cyrus's final years. He had expanded the empire to unprecedented size. His nobles, allies, and subject kingdoms depended heavily on his charisma and leadership. Could it be that the Persian administration intentionally obscured the details of his death to preserve stability? A sudden violent death at the edges of the empire might have encouraged revolts, power struggles, or foreign invasions. Presenting Cyrus as a peaceful ruler who passed away honorably could have helped maintain order while his successor, Cambyses II, took control? If that is true, the silence in Persian records is not accidental, it's deliberate. But even that theory doesn't explain the empty tomb. It only explains the missing information, not the missing king. And so researchers turn to another question: was the tomb always meant to be symbolic? Perhaps Cyrus, a ruler who blended Persian, Median, and even Babylonian traditions, requested a burial style that didn't rely on a physical body. Some ancient cultures left their kings exposed to the elements for ritual reasons. Perhaps Cyrus was given a burial that left no remains to be placed inside the tomb at all. And then there's the possibility that the Greeks simply invented their versions because the Persians themselves never recorded the event. Without an official Persian narrative, Greek writers filled the void with stories drawn from rumor, politics, and imagination. In that mix of myth and reality, the true fate of Cyrus may have vanished forever, leaving behind a trail of conflicting stories. An empty tomb and a king whose final chapter remains one of the most intriguing mysteries of the ancient world. When historians speak of ancient wealth, few names command as much awe as Darius the Great, the architect of imperial administration, the builder of Persepolis, and the ruler whose empire stretched across 3 continents. But behind his monumental achievements lies a mystery so enormous that it feels like something from an epic treasure legend. Ancient writers describe the treasury of Darius as immeasurable, inexhaustible, and beyond calculation. Gold and silver from Lydia, tribute from Egypt, precious stones from India, trade wealth from Babylon, taxes from Ionia, and gifts from Arabia. Every part of the empire fed into the Persian king's vaults. Darius controlled the wealth of the known world. And yet, when the empire fell to Alexander the Great, something didn't add up. The treasure Alexander found was astonishing, but it was only a fraction of what records suggest should have existed. So the question that has haunted historians for centuries remains: where did the rest of Darius's treasure go? The Persian royal treasuries were not simple storage rooms. They were vast, heavily fortified complexes spread across multiple cities: Persepolis, Susa, Ecbatana, Babylon, and Pasargadae. Ancient sources describe the Persepolis treasury alone as containing thousands of talents of gold, silver, and jewel-encrusted artifacts. To put this into perspective in modern terms, if these numbers are accurate, the treasury would have been worth billions. And that's just one vault. But when Alexander's army finally entered Persepolis, the amount recorded was surprisingly small compared to the expected total. Large enough to be legendary, yes, but nowhere near the full wealth that decades of tribute, taxation, and conquest should have produced. This inconsistency has led to theories, each more intriguing than the last. Some historians argue that the Persians hid part of the treasure in secret underground vaults, especially as news spread that Alexander was advancing. The Persian Empire had warning months, even years, to prepare. It would not be unthinkable for the king's loyal officials to transfer wealth into remote regions. Eastern satrapies such as Bactria, Sogdia, and Arya were fiercely loyal to the throne and far more difficult for invaders to reach. If the treasure had been moved there, it may have been hidden in mountainous terrain or buried within fortresses that have long since turned to dust. However, this theory faces a challenge. Alexander fought long campaigns in these eastern lands, capturing strongholds and subduing rebellious satraps. Yet no massive hidden treasure was ever reported. Historians argue that either the treasure was so well hidden that it remains undiscovered even today, or it was never moved in the first place. Another theory shifts the focus back toward the empire itself. Darius I invested heavily in infrastructure, road networks, canals, palaces, administrative systems, a standing army, and large-scale construction projects. It is possible that much of the wealth recorded by ancient writers was never stored as physical treasure, but spent across the empire. Yet this explanation falls short because Persian taxation records and foreign accounts still indicate that the royal treasuries should have held more gold and silver than what Alexander ultimately captured. Then comes a far more dramatic possibility: internal corruption. The Persian Empire was enormous, and its administrative system, though advanced, was vulnerable to local governors who could easily skim wealth before sending tribute to the royal treasury. Some satraps were known for near kingly power, and a few were suspected of hoarding wealth in personal fortresses. If this happened on a large scale, then the missing treasure might never have made it to the royal vaults in the first place. But again, there is little evidence to confirm this, and satraps knew that being caught stealing from the great king meant death. The most controversial theory suggests that the treasure recorded in ancient texts was exaggerated. Greek historians, eager to portray Persia as an impossibly wealthy and decadent empire, may have inflated numbers to enhance the drama of Alexander's conquests. But even when one accounts for exaggeration, the gap between expectation and reality is still too large to dismiss. Babylonian economic tablets, which are far more precise than Greek accounts, also hint at staggering wealth flowing toward the Persian court. And that brings us to the final, most haunting possibility. The treasure may still be out there. Somewhere beneath the ruins of Persia's ancient capitals Persepolis, Susa, Ecbatana, there may be vaults that have never been found. Archaeologists have uncovered only a fraction of the subterranean architecture beneath these ancient cities. Some structures remain buried under modern settlements. Others lie beneath layers of earth untouched for thousands of years. If Darius did distribute his wealth across multiple locations, as some inscriptions imply, then vast quantities of gold and ceremonial artifacts may still be hidden beneath Iranian soil, waiting for a discovery that could rewrite everything we... In the heart of the Persian Empire's military machine stood a force that terrified enemies, mesmerized chroniclers, and carved itself into legend: the Immortals. A unit of 10,000 elite soldiers who, according to ancient accounts, never fell in number. If one warrior died, another immediately replaced him, creating the illusion of an army that simply could not die. It's a story that sounds larger than life, almost supernatural. And for centuries, people have wondered, were the Immortals truly unstoppable warriors of myth, or were they simply the product of clever Persian strategy reshaped by exaggeration and fear? To understand this mystery, we must travel back to the time of the Achaemenids, when Persia was at the height of its power. The Immortals served as both the king's personal guard and his most trusted battlefield unit. They stood closest to the throne during royal ceremonies, marched at the front lines of the army, and carried themselves with a confidence that made foreign observers describe them with awe. Greek writers like Herodotus paint them as well-armed, well-disciplined soldiers whose equipment gleamed with gold and silver. Their presence alone, it seems, was enough to intimidate opponents. But the question historians ask is simple: how much of this is true, and how much is ancient propaganda? One of the most puzzling elements of their story is the idea of their unchanging number. 10,000 men, always exactly 10,000, no matter what happened in battle. The name Immortals wasn't even what Persians called them. The Greek interpretation created that label. To the Persians, they were the Amurtaka, often translated as companions, elite, or those who never diminish. So the Greeks, seeing a force whose number never appeared to decrease, assumed something supernatural. But how did Persia maintain this illusion? Modern historians believe the answer lies in brilliant military organization. The Achaemenid Empire had a sophisticated recruitment system. When one immortal died, retired, or was injured, a replacement was already trained and ready to take his spot. This wouldn't create true immortality, but it would give the impression of a force that never weakened. On the battlefield, this illusion would have been incredibly effective. Enemies watching the Immortals advance repeatedly, never noticing a reduction in their ranks, could easily believe they were facing a unit that simply couldn't be defeated. Yet, even with this explanation, questions remain. Greek sources describe the Immortals' armor as shining and decorative, with gold and silver embellishments. But archaeological evidence from the era suggests Persian armor was practical rather than ornate. A warrior decorated like a treasure chest would be a target, not an advantage. So, were the Greeks exaggerating to amplify the legend of the Persian threat? Or did the Immortals have ceremonial armor for parades and state events, while using simpler, more effective gear in real battles? The answer is uncertain because no complete Immortal armor set has ever been recovered. Another mystery is how they fought. The Greeks described the Immortals as disciplined, coordinated, and skilled with both spear and bow. Their shields, often made from wicker rather than bronze, confused Greek observers who were accustomed to heavy hoplite equipment. But wicker shields were not a sign of weakness. They were lightweight, fast to maneuver, and suited for Persia's highly mobile style of warfare. Greek soldiers may have seen this unfamiliar style and interpreted it through their own cultural lens, assuming that what was different was inferior or strange, when in reality it was designed for speed and adaptability. Still, some aspects of the Immortals' reputation are harder to explain. For example, ancient writers mention that the Immortals traveled with wagons full of luxury items, servants, food, fine clothing. This contradicts the image of an elite fighting force. But it mirrors Persian royal culture, where status and wealth were displayed openly. The Immortals weren't just soldiers, they were symbols of the empire's power. Luxuries were not weakness. They were a statement. The deeper we explore, the more it becomes clear that the Immortals existed and they were elite, but the myths surrounding them may have grown far beyond reality. As Persia's enemies spun stories about an invincible army, those stories took on a life of their own. Greek historians, especially after the Greco-Persian Wars, had every reason to exaggerate the might of the Persian forces they fought against. Creating the image of a 10,000-man army that never died made the Persian Empire appear both terrifying and exotic, a powerful adversary worthy of heroic tales. And yet, despite the distortions and unclear accounts, something about the Immortals remains undeniably extraordinary. Their discipline, their organization, their unwavering presence at the side of the king, and the psychological impact they carried on the battlefield collectively created a phenomenon no other ancient empire had replicated in quite the same way. The legend may not match the reality perfectly, but even the reality alone reveals a military unit so formidable and so iconic that their name continues to echo across thousands of years, wrapped in a blend of fact and myth that keeps the story of the Immortals alive in ways even the ancient Persians could never have predicted. Think we know about the Persian Empire's immense and mysterious wealth. Persepolis was not just a city. It was the beating heart of the Persian Empire's identity. A place where kings were crowned, where tributes from across 3 continents were displayed, where architecture reached a level of beauty rarely matched in the ancient world. Its columns stretched toward the sky like stone spears, its reliefs told stories of unity and power, and its palaces shimmered with the wealth of an empire that seemed eternal. And yet, in 330 BCE, this magnificent capital was consumed by a fire so massive, so devastating, that even today the blackened stones still bear the scars. This fire didn't just destroy buildings, it burned away centuries of Persian history. But the real mystery is this: why did Persepolis burn? And who was truly behind its destruction? The official story, often repeated in textbooks, says that Alexander the Great ordered the city to be burned as an act of revenge for the Persian invasion of Greece more than a century earlier. The Persians, under Xerxes, had sacked Athens, and Alexander, so the story goes, wanted to send a message. But when we look closely at the details, this explanation begins to crack. Was the burning of Persepolis really an act of emotional retaliation? Or was something deeper happening, something political, strategic, or even deliberately hidden? There is a version of the story that describes a drunken celebration. Alexander and his closest companions, intoxicated after a night of heavy drinking, supposedly lit the palace on fire at the suggestion of an Athenian courtesan named Thais. According to this account, the flames were not planned, they were impulsive, chaotic, fueled by alcohol and ego. But if this was truly a reckless accident, why does the fire appear so controlled? Archaeologists have examined the ruins carefully. The burn pattern suggests not a messy blaze ignited at random, but a coordinated destruction. Multiple buildings caught fire simultaneously, and the flames burned long and hot enough to cause structural collapse in several areas. This was not the kind of destruction caused by a drunken bonfire. This was deliberate, systematic, calculated. Another theory argues that Alexander wanted to send a message not to Greece, but to Persia itself. Persepolis was a ceremonial capital, a symbol of Persian kingship and divine authority. Destroying it was like striking at the soul of the empire. Some historians believe that Alexander needed to dismantle the myth of Persian invincibility to secure his control. Burning Persepolis would have shown every satrap and noble in the region that the old world was gone and a new ruler now commanded absolute power. But if this theory is true, why did Alexander hesitate in other parts of Persia? He preserved Babylon. He honored Cyrus's memory. He integrated Persian soldiers into his own army. He married into Persian nobility. This was not a man who sought to humiliate Persia entirely. So why single out Persepolis? A third possibility adds another layer to the mystery. The fire may have been encouraged by Persians themselves. In the final years of the Achaemenid Empire, internal divisions were tearing the state apart. Loyalty to Darius III was fragile. Local nobles held grudges against the royal court. Factions within the empire had been quietly undermining the king long before Alexander arrived. There are hints in ancient records that some Persian elites may have cooperated with Alexander or welcomed the fall of Darius. If these elites viewed Persepolis as a symbol of the old royal family, a family they wanted erased, it's just as possible they supported or even assisted in its destruction. A city burned not by enemies alone, but by political betrayal from within. Then we must consider the practical motive, a motive often overlooked. Persepolis held vast stores of wealth. Burning parts of the city would have provided cover for looting. In the chaotic aftermath, valuable items could vanish without record. Alexander seized enormous treasures, yes, but how much disappeared in the smoke? How much was pocketed by soldiers, generals, or even Persian nobles looking to secure their future in a world that was rapidly shifting under their feet? And still, the mystery deepens when we dig deeper into the archaeology. Sections of the city that held administrative records, the clay tablets that documented Persia's bureaucracy, were especially damaged by the fire. These tablets contained the economic, political, and cultural memory of the empire. Their destruction wiped out vital information about how Persia functioned. Was this an accident? Or was it an attempt to erase records that could threaten someone's legitimacy, someone's claims to power, someone's version of the past? Even after examining every theory, revenge, drunken impulse, political strategy, collaboration, looting, there's a sense that none of them tell the full story. The burning of Persepolis feels like a moment where multiple motives collided, where personal emotion, political manipulation, and historical symbolism intertwined to create one of the most devastating events of the ancient world. Persepolis did not fall quietly. It burned in a way that suggests purpose, intention, and secrets that even today remain buried beneath its charred stones, whispering of a truth lost in the flames of an empire's final, tragic chapter. The Achaemenid Empire was the largest and most sophisticated empire the world had ever seen. From the deserts of Arabia to the mountains of Central Asia, from the Nile in Egypt to the shores of the Aegean, Persian rule stretched across 3 continents. Its armies were vast, its treasury unmatched, and its administration highly advanced. On paper, it should have been invincible. And yet, within a few short years, it collapsed under the onslaught of Alexander the Great. How could a superpower, built over centuries, crumble so quickly? Historians have long argued that external force alone cannot explain Persia's sudden fall. The truth lies in shadows, in whispers of betrayal, political intrigue, and internal fractures that no army could ever fully repair. To understand the collapse, we need to look at the Persian court itself. Darius III, the last king of the Achaemenid Empire, ascended the throne in a time of uncertainty. His predecessors had expanded Persia to its greatest size, but with that expansion came instability. Governors or satraps wielded immense local power. They collected taxes, maintained armies, and often acted as semi-independent rulers. While the system allowed Persia to control vast territories efficiently, it also created a fragile balance. Loyalty to the central king was often conditional, and personal ambition simmered just beneath the surface. When Alexander began his campaign, he did not simply face a single unified empire. He faced a web of competing interests. Persian generals and satraps had their own agendas, some of them conflicting with each other. In several key battles, Persian forces retreated or failed to coordinate properly. At the Battle of Gaugamela, for example, Darius had a numerical advantage far beyond Alexander's smaller army. Yet the Persians fell apart, leaving gaps in their lines, abandoning key positions, and failing to press counterattacks. Some scholars suggest this was not just battlefield error, it was deliberate. Certain satraps may have withheld support, either out of self-interest or because they had already aligned themselves with Alexander, seeing the writing on the wall and betting on the winner. Betrayal extended beyond the generals to the very inner circle of the king. Darius III faced constant pressure from his own advisors. Some encouraged him to flee rather than confront Alexander, while others allegedly entertained offers of secret deals with the Macedonian king. The tension within the Persian court was enormous. A kingdom that had once commanded loyalty through fear, tradition, and divine kingship was now cracking under pressure, and its cracks were exploited at precisely the right moment by a cunning opponent. There were also cases of local populations and elites switching sides, often quietly and without a fight. As Alexander advanced, cities that might have resisted opened their gates, surrendered supplies, and even welcomed Macedonian forces. It wasn't always voluntary. Fear of destruction played a role, but there's evidence that prior alliances and political maneuvering made these surrenders almost inevitable. Persia's internal cohesion, already weakened by the ambitions of satraps and nobles, could not withstand these compounding pressures. Perhaps the most dramatic evidence of betrayal comes at the very end of Darius's life. After Gaugamela, he fled east, attempting to gather a new army to challenge Alexander again. But in Bactria, he was betrayed by Bessus, one of his own satraps, who arrested Darius and eventually murdered him. This act was not just a personal betrayal, it is symbolic of the collapse of loyalty across the empire. Even the king's closest subordinates, who should have fought to defend the throne, placed their ambition above the survival of the empire. Bessus sought to claim the kingship for himself, illustrating how deeply fractured the Persian leadership had become. The consequences of this betrayal were catastrophic. Alexander was able to advance rapidly, taking cities with minimal resistance, claiming vast treasures, and consolidating power without the prolonged sieges and attrition he might have otherwise faced. Persia's military might was formidable, but without cohesion, strategy, and loyalty, even the strongest army can fall. The hidden betrayal, the quiet conspiracies, the opportunistic nobles, and the fragmented command structure ensured that Persia's fall was almost inevitable the moment Alexander arrived. And yet, there is another layer to this mystery. Historians continue to debate whether these betrayals were the cause of Persia's collapse or merely a symptom of deeper structural weaknesses. Was the empire's administrative system too decentralized to respond to a fast-moving threat? Were the satraps always likely to prioritize self-interest over the king's command? Did cultural, political, and economic pressures make internal betrayal unavoidable? The answers are elusive, because the Persians themselves left few records discussing these internal fractures in any honest way. Their chronicles focus on victories, construction projects, and the glory of kingship. Leaving the cracks, conspiracies, and Bedi Persian Empire was more than an empire of immense wealth, vast territory, and formidable armies. It was a civilization built on ambition, innovation, and vision, yet shrouded in mysteries that continue to captivate historians and enthusiasts alike. From the astonishing rise of the Achaemenids, seemingly unstoppable in their expansion, to the enigmatic disappearance of Cyrus the Great and the unanswered questions surrounding his tomb, Persia's history is layered with puzzles that resist simple explanation. The treasures of Darius, the legendary Immortals, and the calculated destruction of Persepolis reveal an empire both grand and fragile, where myths and reality intertwine to create stories that inspire awe and wonder. And at the heart of it all lies the hidden betrayal that brought down a kingdom built to last forever, a reminder that even the greatest power can crumble from within. The Persian Empire, with all its solved and unsolved mysteries, remains a testament to human ambition, ingenuity, and the enigmatic forces of history. Its secrets endure, waiting to be uncovered by those who dare to explore the sands of time, to question the records, and to imagine the truth still hidden beneath the ruins of one of the world's most remarkable civilizations. Trails hidden beneath the grand narrative of empire,